I think we're on. Are we on?
Yes. Good evening, everyone.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Sister Barbara.
Oh, Sister Barb. Somebody's actually here.
Yes.
Hi, Sister Barbara. Good evening. Good
Welcome.
evening to you.
Welcome to our SoundMind panel.
Mhm, It's been a
Uh,
minute since I've been here.
I know. Welcome back, Deacon LaBelle.
I know. I've
I
missed.
know. We're so glad to have you back today. We've had a few guests on,
hmm
but we're so glad to have you home.
Yes, I'm happy to be here. Maybe short lived, but I'm here at least for the
Uh,
day.
Good evening,
Ah,
everyone. Welcome. Please, as you're coming on, invite someone. Go ahead and hit that share button
mhm,
wherever platform you're
mhm.
on, YouTube, Facebook. Please invite someone to the discussion today. Hi, Kife.
Hi,
We're
Tuesday.
we're talking about productivity busters.
hmm
This is a good one, so
This is
I'm actually really excited to have this.
this is
Uh,
a really good one, particularly in the start of the new year.
Starting the new year
Yep.
talking about our
Oh,
productivity. So please join in today. You guys, listen, we on these Sell Mind panels have been dropping some gems that
ooh,
some people pay
mhm,
lots of money to go to conferences and
mhm,
to see a therapist to talk about some of these
mhm,
issues that you guys are getting free of charge. So
mhm.
come on in the room and
Oh,
invite someone.
I see Sister Sherry's
Hi, Sister
there.
Sherry. Hi, Keisha
And
Bryant,
Keisha
Patricia.
Bryant, Patricia. Nice to see everybody joining. This is
Yes.
wonderful.
Hi, Sister Brown. I see you from Kansas City. Welcome.
Mhm.
Um, please, yes, do come on aboard as we get ready to
Yep.
have a discussion.
Yep.
We
Mhm.
won't be before you long, as the saints say. Hi, Sissy Pooh. My sister is on. Hi.
Oh,
Hi,
hi.
Ty.
Oh,
Welcome.
like I remember you all. You were this big.
I know. Hi, Sister Minton. Welcome back, everybody, as we're talking
Yeah.
about productivity busters.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
do think productivity is a sometimes we have some busters that interrupt our flow when we're trying
Yep.
to start something good,
Yep.
especially
And
in the new
and a
year.
lot of times it's stuff that we do ourselves.
Oh yes,
It's a
absolutely.
lot of stuff we do ourselves. We'll be talking about that. Why do we get in our own way?
Hmm.
And what are those things that keep us from doing and being who God created us to be? And we set goals. And I was just on a call today, and they went, tell us your resolutions and what color you feel today. I'm like, oh
Oh
gosh,
Lord.
it's been that kind of day for me. Okay. And I'm like, I don't do resolutions. I don't.
I
I
don't either.
don't. I don't. But so many people set themselves up for resolutions and things like that, and setting up goals that we don't meet, and you can end up in a cycle of just not feeling good.
Absolutely.
So, we want to talk about all, and let's have a real discussion about it. Really,
Talk about it.
let's have a
Okay.
real discussion.
So
We've all fallen and gotten back up again.
while Deacon Labu is talking
hmm
about that, can you guys like in the chat tell us, do you set New Year's resolutions? Do people
Mm.
still do that? Are you able to put in the chat for us? Hi Sylvia. Hi Angela.
Mm.
Can you let us know? Are you guys setting resolutions for this year?
hmm
Um,
And then as we have the discussion, what things work for you.
yeah,
If you have a certain something that has pushed you forward or helped you to achieve a goal, let us know. We are here to share and learn from each other tonight.
Hi Tiff. Yes, so not resolutions, but try to set goals. So
That goal.
we're going to have a discussion tonight. It's the new year, and we are all thinking about goal setting. So let us know. Do you set resolutions? Do you set goals? How do you approach your new year? And what gets in the way? So we're going to
Mhm.
talk about that a lot today as we're talking about productivity busters. What gets in the way sometimes of you being productive? And please use the chat to make your comments and to also ask your questions today so we can tap into some of those things and Somebody said weight loss is tough. Woo, child, I cannot.
Okay, we not talking about that because COVID has not been good.
Don't make me start crying on this panel talking about weight loss right now. Like,
You're like, wait, it's bad when your stretchy pants get too tight.
don't make me stand up and show you what I'm wearing right now. I can't. So
Okay.
silly myself. All right,
Oh
so
my
good
gosh.
evening, everyone. All right, so we're going to dig right in while we're talking about it.
Hmm.
So don't forget, let us know. Are you setting goals for the new year?
I see people are putting comments in
Yes, I
already.
see Sherry
Yeah.
says I've decided to set goals that I want to meet this year without getting in my own way. So yes,
Wonderful.
good. Thank you for that because
Hmm.
that's what we're going to be talking about today. So
Hmm.
as you all know, we're going to kind of start jumping in. Yes, talk to us tonight. Bishop is doing the I Am Possible series. So we hope and pray that you are all listening in because we're going to touch on some of those things tonight. So one of the things that he has been sharing with us is that we first need to tap into God's purpose for us, right? So, one of the first things he talked about in one of the series he did on Sunday was like tapping into purpose,
Hmm.
and that God's purpose should first create a passion within us, right? And that this keeps us going when we're tired and we're frustrated, and that if we're not winning, we have to make sure that we are staying within the boundaries that God has set for us.
Hmm.
One of the other things he talked about was pride in our self-image, and that a lot of us have created an image within ourselves, and that image keeps us from actually understanding and living
Hmm.
out the will that God has for us.
Hmm.
So, one of the things that we continue to ask ourselves is, who am I?
Hmm.
An unproductive statement,
Yep.
but we should be moving to, what must I do?
Hmm.
Productivity,
Hmm.
right? So, how do I participate in the life God has for me? He said, is the question of every child of God.
Hmm.
So, when we're not doing that, that's what leads us to not being productive. So,
Hmm.
we want to touch on some of that tonight as we talk
Hmm.
about productivity.
Hmm.
So, let's first define it, Sister Deacon
Yeah.
LeBeau. Okay.
Well,
What is productivity?
well, one of the things that I appreciate about this series, and Bishop says all the time, is that it's a process.
Yes.
It's a process, and I think you even alluded to it. I have goals here, I have a purpose here. We change throughout our lives just because of the natural course of our lives.
Mm-hmm.
So we may start off thinking, as kids, I'm going to be a fireman, I'm going to be a teacher, and then you go to high school and like, no, I want to do that, and then something else. So we change. So I think part of the I want to call it a problem, but part of what we need to do is be open to the process.
Yes, absolutely.
And when we get very rigid in that, what happens is we don't meet that goal, then we feel like a failure.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels like I'm stuck. When in fact, you're just walking down the wrong lane. You're
Mm-hmm.
walking down the wrong path to your journey. And I sometimes think that, I know God will give us what we need to get through to where He wants us to be,
Mm-hmm.
if we're open to it,
Mm-hmm.
if we're open to the process.
We're open to the process.
Hmm. Hmm.
So now I'm going to say this because this is a conversation that I've been having with some of my clients as we're talking about this topic, is about what you just said, Deacon LeBou, right? Is the process. There is definitely, and I'm so glad Bishop touched on this too, because it's confirmation of something that I've been sharing with my clients, that when it comes to the process, a lot of us are very stuck in this like idealized image of ourselves. It's like it starts off, I think, from very young. Like
Yeah.
we see ourselves with
Yeah.
this driving a certain car. We used to
Oh,
play the game. Anybody play MASH growing up, right? You never play MASH?
I don't know if I called it mash, but tell me what mash is. I'm
So
not
like we
sure.
used to talk about like the car we wanted to drive, and we used to put
Okay.
it out and play. It was like a game we play, and then we
Okay.
had how many kids we wanted to have, what type
Okay.
of house we wanted to live in, the car we wanted to drive on this side, and we would count and circle the ones, like it was like a game, right?
Okay. I
As
got
we
that.
yes,
Really?
and And we would have this, as even from childhood, like we would idealize in our minds like
Yeah.
the life we wanted to have.
Yeah.
One day when I grow up, I want to be and I want to
Mm,
do and I
yeah.
want to have.
Mm,
And I think the problem with that is like what Bishop is talking about is that it's okay to have a picture in mind, but sometimes we
mhm,
idealize this
mhm,
image
mhm,
without the process, without
mhm.
thinking about the process.
Yeah.
We get very stuck on a destination,
Yeah.
but Bishop always tells us the destination is not the goal, right?
Mm-mm.
It's the process.
Mhm.
And I've been sharing with my clients about Joseph, right?
Mm.
Joseph started off with one idea of the dream, but ended in a completely different,
Something totally different. Right.
something completely, he was a
Right.
completely
Right.
different person
Right.
by the time he got to the end.
Right.
And his understanding of the dream was very different
Yeah.
after the
Yeah.
process.
Yeah. And I think that's something that, as Bishop talked about with the process, we see these things and we see people with these things and think they snap their fingers and it automatically came.
Yes.
It takes work and
Mm-hmm.
time and effort and planning and failures and all that comes into it, and what's this? You don't know what I had to go through to get this blessing.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
And when we see that and we start comparing ourselves, or we see that, I don't have this, or I want this, and I thought I would be here. I always say that's like a trick of the enemy that's going to keep you
Mm-hmm.
stuck right where you are.
Mm-hmm.
But just like you said, Joseph had a whole different mindset of where he was supposed to be, you
Mm-hmm.
know, but none of it was by accident. None of
Mm-hmm.
it. And so even when we don't feel as if we're at that destination yet, and this is something that I've had to consistently remind myself of, everything counts. Every experience,
Yes.
everything I go through is count and gets me closer to where I'm supposed to be in my purpose.
Yep.
That's good, the bad, ugly, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
I constantly talk, about, people, we all go through horrible things sometimes, and we all go through trials and tribulations. Um, but even those become a part of who we are and
Mm-hmm.
form us into who God wants us to be.
Mm-hmm.
So nothing, and how do I say this? Where you are is where you're supposed to be,
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
is where you're supposed to be. So when we relinquish that and we say, okay, God, I'm going to go where you want me to go.
Mm-hmm.
Give me vision, give
Yep.
me wisdom, connect me with people that will help me, show me how to get there, and
Mm-hmm.
open ourselves up to that, and stop looking backwards
Yes.
and
Mm-hmm.
saying, I shoulda, coulda, wouldas,
Mm-hmm.
and move forward into opening ourselves up to the possibilities that God has for us. I
Mm-hmm.
think it just helps that process move a little farther, and makes it a
Mm-hmm.
little easier. Makes it a little
Yep,
easier.
absolutely.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
something you said is the unhealthy comparisons, right? Unhealthy comparisons. That is a purpose killer because we will get our minds so wrapped up in what other people are
Yep.
doing or where they are in the
Yep.
process and completely neglect our own.
Yeah.
And, it's so hard to see someone, me and one of my clients were talking about this earlier today, like somebody doing something similar to you, but they're so much further
Oh yeah.
along. And you see the way that they're doing it and the financial support that
Hmm.
they have. And it seems
Hmm.
like an impossible
Hmm.
thing to achieve when you are comparing. But where we are in the process is where we're supposed to be. There's a
Hmm.
reason why we're there because
Hmm.
we don't have the experience or the
Yep.
exposure or the skill set yet to do
Right.
some of the things that we're looking to do.
Right.
And we have to just embrace that and be okay with it,
Hmm.
accept that maybe I'm not there yet. But if I don't start somewhere, I'll never get
Hmm.
to
Right.
what it is that I'm trying to
Yeah.
accomplish.
Yeah. I've always admired those people, and those children who say, I'm going to be a doctor. That's
Yeah.
it. I'm done. I'm going to be a doctor. And and that was me as a child. I was going to be a pediatrician. Nothing you could tell me. I was cutting up chickens at the table, look at the veins, all that stuff. Went to college and like, no,
No.
not for me. Won't be
Hmm.
good. So I had to make a career change. Really, it was a mind shift,
Hmm.
because from kindergarten to high school, actually, this was my third, I was going into my senior year in college, pre med, all of that. I
Hmm.
had to make a mind shift and say, God, this is just not what I
Wow.
feel you want me to be.
Hmm.
And I had to make it once again a mind shift to open myself up to say, God, where do you need me to go? and
Right.
what do you want me to be? So I agree with you. When we start comparing ourselves, not often against other people, but we compare ourselves to the ideas that we have of ourselves.
Yes. Yes.
That's the dangerous one.
Yes. And that takes, I thank you for sharing it, because that takes so much courage to say, I'm doing this, but I'm not happy. This is not productive in the way that I know God wants me to be productive.
Mhm.
And sometimes we have to take a step back and kind of kill off that image of
Yep.
ourselves that we think we're supposed to be,
Yep.
and trust where God has us in the direction He's taken us in, even though it may not look anything like where we thought we were going to be. And to be settled and okay with that,
Mhm.
and put that trust in God to keep
Yeah.
going in the direction that He has, is huge.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's huge.
Yeah. That takes a lot of bravery, but just humility and humbleness to do
Oh,
that.
yes. Mm-hmm.
Humbleness. I'm at the stage, and this is for our seniors who may be out there tonight. I'm back in school. you know,
Good.
one I'm back in school,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm sitting. It's funny because I walk in, the kids go, "Are you the professor?" I'm like, "Not yet, but I will be." So I could get offended, and I could go, "Okay, God, why do you have me here?"
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
I heard that not as a criticism, "Are you the professor?" but as a affirmation
Yes.
of God. This is because they already see me there.
Yes.
They already see me. I just have to see myself there.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, I get it, God. I see what you're trying to do. Because
Yeah.
in my old days, I would have gotten offended and said, "Excuse me,
What you trying to say?
what you trying to
Right.
say?"
But like, you are like a walking representation of that. And sometimes we will like get offended by
Yep.
the process, but
Right.
when you walked in, clearly that's what they see,
Yep.
right?
And I said, "Okay, God, I'm open to it.
Yeah.
And I'm open. I won't get offended."
That's in the book. And that's such a good point, right? Getting offended by the purpose and the plan that God has for us just because it looks different from what we thought God was going to do, right?
Right.
Because we're not the doctor or lawyer. Sometimes we just glorify this image.
Right.
And sometimes it's because we see ourselves one way, right? And
Right.
Bishop talked about that. And there's a reason behind that. And we have to really recognize what that is. Why am I glorifying this like part of myself?
Mhm.
Hi, Pastor Hudson.
Hi, Pastor Hudson. How are
Good
you?
evening. How is
Guys, welcome to the
everybody?
stage.
Good.
Pastor Hudson.
Happy New
Here
Year to
come here
you.
comes here comes wisdom and knowledge.
Oh, because I have no hair, you assume that, right? Okay. It's good to see you
So
all.
one person had asked, what is the difference between goals and resolutions? Does anybody want to touch that? Like, what is the difference between setting a resolution and setting a goal?
Well, I see. I don't know the definition and all, the dictionary definition, but I
Mhm.
always see a resolution as something that we resolve to do.
Right.
I'm
Hmm.
going to say, okay, I'm going to resolve. I'm going to just make this a plan to do this.
Hmm.
A goal for me is more hard fast. It is something that fits into my purpose,
Hmm.
to the long range purpose and goal of who I am.
Hmm.
Whereas a resolution may be, I'll do this now and then see how it fits in the long term. And that's probably way off, but
Mhm.
that's just the way I look at
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
Mhm.
know, I agree. You set that up so nicely because the key word to resolution is the prefix re.
Mhm.
And
Hmm.
anytime you see re, you're doing something over again.
Hmm.
So I tell people, church people all the time, of faith, we don't do resolutions, we find solutions.
Mhm.
The difference with a goal is nothing more than a dream with a date on it.
Hmm.
See what I'm
Ooh, I
saying?
like that.
So,
Absolutely.
so it's a focus thing. And you're so right, Deacon Andrea.
Mhm.
Goals are more deep seated. Goals push you. Goals require you to move towards the goal.
Hmm.
Resolutions can become a lot of things on paper with good intentions.
Right.
But like you said before,
Hmm.
I plan to, I hope to. And I don't know about you. There's a lot of things I've gotten caught up in life I'm going to do it at this time. I'm going to do it that time. And boom, nothing happened.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I think that's a perfect way to say it. Like it's our intention for the year, but a lot of times without planning and preparation. So I think a lot of people go into the new year or another year after that, like what you said, the prefix re, right? We go into each year with these intentions without planning. And, you know, it's hard to be productive if you're not setting a goal that's measurable. Right? That I can quantify it some way, that by the end of the week I've done this, by the end of the next week I've done that. And a lot of times that's why by the time we get to March, we done forgot about the gym membership that we're paying $50 a month.
You go to March? You go that long? Okay.
I might make it to February, but that's a push.
Because we intended to do it, right? But we didn't really, there was no planning.
Yeah.
There's a difference between restarting and resetting. You know, and we're good at restarting, you know, and we get trapped in the calendar year. Okay, if everything didn't work out in 2021, 2022 is my year. But you know, we said the same thing on 2019, 2020
and the year
is my
before.
year.
Yep.
Yeah, but look what happened in 2020.
Yeah.
But you claimed it was your year.
Yeah.
So I mean,
don't get me started on that one.
Every year is my year.
Every year is my year.
The more give it to me, I'll take every year.
So that's a good point, though. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Steve.
Now, say, Reverend T, I think you hit on an important point too. That some of this requires planning. It does, you know, and it requires, you know, and including myself, we are so good at putting up or promoting excuses and saying I'm going to and do. But you know, I don't have enough money. I don't do this. Okay, but you can sit down and write a business plan. You can sit down and put it on paper. You can sit down and I want to write a book. Okay, then just start writing one page at a time. So I think what happens is because we get so overwhelmed by the I don't haves and I can't do's that we don't move. That I think a lot of the productivity busters happen because of our own lack of persistence.
Right. Yes.
I do. And I didn't say persistence and not fail. I just said persistence.
Right.
Because you can be persistent and still fail, but you still got to go back and be persistent about it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I think she's sharing the wisdom. Yes, indeed.
Oh gosh. So, okay, I was looking at some of the comments. So let's get into that a little bit, right? Productivity busters, as that's what we're talking about, right? So, productivity is using your time, energy, and attention effectively to achieve your goal, right? So it's not just about your time, your energy, it's about attention too. Like a lot of people are not productive because we are just like out there. We're all over the place, right? And we don't have tunnel vision and there's a lack of focus. So we're going to talk about some of the obstacles to being productive. One being distractions, right? So let's just throw it out there. Some of the distractions that people face that keep them from being productive. What are some of the things that we can
There you go. I was reaching for mine.
Yep.
You
got two. Yep. Always happens. And when I'm doing something, before I know it, I'm flipping, turning. I'm like, put the phone down. Put it down.
45 minutes done passed. And you're like, oh, how long have I been doing that? Let me put this phone down.
Yep.
Watching YouTube. Scrolling through social media. Television. Catching up on Netflix and chill.
Yeah, all that.
Binge watching shows.
Yep.
We make time for what we want to make time for, right?
Yeah, exactly.
My husband says that all the time. Bishop says that all the time. We make time for what we want to spend time for. But sometimes we are, you know, we complain about what we don't have, but we are not putting the time and the energy and the focus into what we need. And it's one of the things that keeps us by the end of 2022. We're in the same place we were in January, February, because of the distractions, right? Some of the other things I think is a big distraction is our own inner voices. Deacon LeBou, you talked about this already, right? Is the inner critic and the inner voices. I think we have our own inner critic, but we also have influences outside of us too that can sap our productivity.
Mhm.
The people that we are comparing ourselves to, and also outside stuff, right? Things that we see in magazines or on TV that convince us that we are not enough or we don't
Mhm.
have enough. Like if you want to do this and you have a meaningful life, buy this, buy
Mhm.
that, right?
Mhm.
You know, there's a
Mhm.
reason you don't feel that way because you need this. Give me
Yep.
all the gimmicks and the stuff that we hear
Yeah.
every day that makes us feel less than,
Yep.
right?
Absolutely.
So, touch on some of the distractions, Pastor Hudson, and
Ooh.
what we can do to kill the inner critic and the voices that we hear.
Well, y'all done chopped up the lettuce. Maybe I could throw a couple of tomatoes in. Okay. Um, I think the first thing you have to realize is, and I think I shared this once before when I was on, I had to learn, the Lord had to show me the difference between a things to do list
Mm,
and a things to accomplish list.
mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
my things to do list looked pretty. It was numbered, it was highlighted. If you saw it, you're like, man, this man's about something.
Yeah.
Put down 10 things, and I would come back and maybe did one or two or one and a half. But things to accomplish, the first thing is, and Reverend T, you know, you're talking about the things that influence us, the things we see influence us. So if I write down things to accomplish, I see that every time I look at that list.
Yeah.
So it reminds me, you know, and I think Deacon Andrew, you touched on it. It reminds me that I can't procrastinate because it says accomplish and it has a date next to it.
Mm-hmm,
So there's a difference between being productive and being busy.
mm-hmm,
Oh, yeah.
There's a big difference, you know. To be busy means you just put it down. You can walk to it, walk around it. You know, you talk about that gym. I've been in the gym and I see people come to the gym, and you know I'm in there, you know, lifting my 6 pounds and sweating like a chick. And you know they're walking around. Hey, how you doing? I mean, you know, and then they tell everybody they've been to the gym. Yeah, well, you've been to the gym.
mm-hmm.
Yes, you were there. You were busy walking around, but you were not productive.
Yeah.
Right.
You know,
Right.
and then and the other thing too is for productivity. I was thinking about it coming down. You gotta have the tools. So you might have the idea what you want to do. You know, and I thought of an example. I was putting something together, and you never want to see me do that. A cabinet. And I was being productive. I was getting that thing. Then I got to the point almost to the end, and there was a certain wrench they sent with the packet,
Mm-hmm.
and I couldn't find it. So my productivity was delayed because I didn't have all my tools.
Yes.
And how many times,
Showing
you
it.
know, you can have a good mind, a good intent, you know, even good points, be productive, but if you don't take the time to make sure you have the tools, you're going to find there's going to be some delays in it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. I was putting together exercise bike. See, I'm trying, right?
I
Right.
did last year. I didn't know.
But the very, 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 very first thing is that before you put this together, make sure you have all the tools. Right?
Yeah.
Before you start assembling, they give you everything that's supposed to be in there, and they say go review to make sure before you start, everything is in place. Right. And I think a lot of us have this habit of just wanting, let me just do it, right? Without making sure we have everything that we need to have in place. There's no way to be productive if you won't take your time and be patient to make sure that you're well prepared, right? Bishop always says that opportunity would never, what is it?
I was going to go
at the level of your preparation. You would never surpass your preparation. And some of us wonder why we're not productive, but we're not taking the time to go back to school, to read the directions, to make sure that we're well equipped to do what we're asking God to do within us.
And I think some of that is really just having an honest conversation with ourselves.
Absolutely.
And identifying our talents, our strong sets, our weaknesses, and all of that, and having an honest conversation that this is what I can do, this is what I can't do, this is what I'm good at, this is what I'm not good at. And then, you know, and then making that list, and then figuring out what tools you need. And I love that analogy, because I'm that person. I don't want to read the instructions. I just don't start putting it.
I'm with you, sister.
And then I sit there at the end and like, why do I have 5 things left over? And everything's leaning this way. But I realized that's my impatience to get to the product. That's my impatience to finally get to the end. When if you just follow the instructions, they're there for a reason. They've been tested, they've been proved. Just follow the instructions. And I think sometimes in life we just don't want to follow the instructions. You know, the Bible tells us what to do. There are people around us who can be of help and support to us, but we don't always want to put in that time or have the patience to do that. To just say, okay, fine. And when I do it, I want to do it well, because you never want to have an opportunity presented to you that you're not prepared for.
Absolutely.
Yes, that's true.
That's a blown opportunity.
That's true.
That's a blown opportunity.
Yeah. You may not get it around again.
Nope.
That's right. That's
may
right.
Not get it around again. I will say this as it relates to distractions, is that there are a such thing as good distractions, right? Where sometimes it is important to take a step back. And I saw someone, Sherry, who said that's me not taking time out for me, right? Like sometimes I think it is okay that we have a period of isolation where we're just doing things to refuel, taking the time to learn and build without having our hands in everything, right? Sometimes being busy, like you said, is a distraction because we're not doing what we're supposed to. Go and sit down somewhere, learn something, pick up a book, right? But a lot of us are just going, moving, writing down lists, but we're not productive. We're just doing stuff, right? Having our hands in everything, but we're not doing what we need to do to build and to grow. So I will say this though. There are times though when we need to really take a step back and ask God to reveal to us the negative distractions that are blocking us from getting to the place that He has for us. Because sometimes we're not even cognizant that what we're doing is a distraction.
Right.
It looks like productivity a lot of times when it really isn't.
Right.
There's probably a ton of people on here that say, I did this, I did that, but none of it had anything to do with what we were supposed to do that day.
Absolutely.
Especially
a whole lot of nothing.
Oh my God. I was just talking to our worship and praise team, and I was sharing with them, I said, we have to recognize the fact that because we're good at something doesn't mean we're anointed for it.
I'm gonna take a sip of water on that one.
And I was just sharing, and one of the ladies in there, she said, I played football with her husband. She said, but you were good at football. I said, yeah, I was good. I got offers, but I didn't love it. That's why I could walk away from it. And sometimes, and it happens in careers, people will take positions and jobs, and I'm sure you might have heard it somewhere. Well, it has good benefits. Oh, it pays.
Oh, yeah.
All this, and then you get into the other part. Well, in 5 years, I'm going to do something else. And this, and some of the greatest distractions, although unfortunately they were tragic, was what happened with 9/11 and COVID, because it forced people. There's a book out. If you had never had a chance to read it, it was written by a doctor. I think it was Miss Spencer. It's called "Who Moved My Cheese."
Oh, I read that.
I've been doing seminars off of that for the longest time. You got to know when the cheese is stale, and you got to know when the cheese is moved. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, it's a challenging time, and one thing too is, Reverend T, you said it, and this is where our humility comes in. We got to understand what we're good to do. I think I mentioned once before when we got together, I had to learn that I'm a framer. I can frame ideas, but I'm not a great filler. So I had to connect with people whose strength was filling once I framed. Once I architect, then they engineer. But that took some years because my pride got in the way. And I got to the point where I was satisfied with things stalling so that my ego wouldn't be. But once I finally gave in, boom. And God put more people around
Yeah.
To do those things. So
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bishop talks about some people are visionaries, and then some people are the nuts and bolts that
Right.
put the
yes,
vision
yes,
help to put the
Yep.
vision together.
Yep.
And
great
you're
analogy.
so right
Yep.
that some of
Yep.
us are we lack humility. We won't just admit that we have areas that we're not the strongest in, and then rely on those who are strong in
Right.
those areas
Right.
to help us be more productive. Instead,
Yeah.
we want to do everything, and sometimes we're not. That's just not our gifting, or
Mm-mm.
that's not our strength. So get somebody else to do it.
Yeah.
Man, I have a whole team.
Oh,
Like
you
I'm
got
a great therapist. I am a great therapist. I try
Mm-hmm.
to be, but I am bad with math.
Yeah.
Okay. Don't
Okay.
have I have an accountant for a reason. And I'm still slow. Like I
Yeah.
can admittedly say I'm slow. Like I don't
Mhm.
know. I don't know. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
just put it here.
Yeah.
Where?
Mhm.
How do you do it? Like, it's just not my strength, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I do try to work really hard to strengthen the areas when I'm weak, because even though math is not one of my strong suits,
Yeah.
I still have to know it for business.
Absolutely.
Right.
But you have support to help you in the areas. Teach
Right.
me. I need to learn. I'm not good
Right.
at it, but be willing to admit where you're not the most productive
Mhm.
and get help in those areas. And don't be afraid of that. Don't be prideful
Mm-mm.
and not ask for help.
Mm-mm.
And that's the quickest way to not accomplish anything,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and you
And
can't be afraid to fail.
no,
No.
no,
No.
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 And you will. I would use this example when people say, oh, I failed at something, something happened. Some of our greatest lessons come out of failure. I'll speak for myself.
Mm-hmm.
Some of my greatest life lessons have come out of my own mistakes or have come out of my own failures.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they keep coming around until I learn the lesson, till I
Yeah.
learn the
Mhm.
life lesson. Okay, so I try and get it real quick. But
Mm-hmm.
we learn a lot from our failures or our mistakes if we take the time to sit back and analyze and stop and
Right.
think, okay, what were the pieces that made this puzzle not fit?
Yeah.
What are some things I need to revisit and walk in that spirit of humility to say, okay,
Mm-hmm.
you know what? I can't do it by myself.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I don't know this, so let me find someone who can help me do this. So it does, it takes a certain spirit to allow others to help you move forward, because
Exactly.
you never know what I'll say, allowing them or asking them for help to do, how that propels them in their lives and in their
Exactly.
purpose. So it kind of works hand in hand for me. I can't do this, you can, and iron sharpens iron.
Yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
so you have a different skill set than what I have, and then
Mm-hmm.
together we can accomplish and get it done. So
Mm-hmm.
but it does take a certain amount, once again, of humility to do that. I can't do it all. I can't do it. I'm a great speaker. I love doing all that. And people, you should write a book. I'm like, I'm not a writer. I do write, but I don't necessarily like it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll tape it or I'll speak into something and have it transcribed, because I
Mm-hmm.
speak better than I write. you
That's
know,
still writing a book.
it's still writing a book. It's just
Yeah.
not in a traditional
Yeah.
way. So
My
yep,
first two books, I talked into a tape recorder.
Mm-hmm.
yep,
Yep.
yep,
Still writing a book. When
absolutely.
it comes to failure, one thing I try to encourage people is fail fast.
Mm,
Mm-hmm.
Get it
Mm-hmm.
out the way.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Get it out the way. Learn
yeah,
from it. You know, the problem is when we fail and procrastinate and build any excuses and things of that nature. Reverend Tia, so you have a team around you.
Mm-hmm.
You
hmm
know, and yet you have enough wisdom to say, you know what, I'm not good at math, so I'm not going to sit here and try to front. I'm going to get somebody, or I might be good in this, but I got somebody else who can do that. And that was
Mm-hmm.
something I had to learn,
yeah,
that if somebody can do what I do, let them do it.
Yeah.
right,
Mm-hmm.
right,
So now I have a whole team of younger minds around me
yeah,
that's blowing this thing up. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and
yeah.
change is a challenge
hmm
Yes. Say that
hmm
again.
hmm
at any age.
At any age.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Keisha, I see that I do see your post, but I'm gonna say this is hard for us to answer on here without context. So maybe we should chit chat afterward, or this might be a good question for Pastor Nick or Bishop. Okay, I don't want you to think I'm ignoring your question, but I'm not sure without context if I can answer that here. Okay.
I said say she can email
Yes.
social.
So
Go to
yes.
Bethany.
So thank you for that. So yes, email social@gotobethany.com and we'll be able to further help you with that question. Okay.
Now, see, that's
Um,
wisdom. That's wisdom right there.
yeah.
That's
Um,
wisdom in action.
so one of the other things that we want to talk about is like a lack of direction, right? So sometimes I think a lot of us leave too much stuff up to chance and we don't plan. And we talked about this already, but there is no easy way to do anything. And a lot of us are trying to depend on miracles to see some kind of end result. And we're waiting. We use this. If I hear this in church one more time, it's going to drive me crazy. Okay, the I'm just waiting on the Lord.
Yeah.
No, the Lord's waiting on you.
Yes. Especially when it's from the people that you see are not doing anything. You're like, well, you're going to be waiting a whole long time, child, because there's no easy way to do anything. A lot of times we're not productive because we are just immobile. You know, we have analysis paralysis. Like we think about more than we actually do.
Yeah.
And there's no way to be productive if all you do is think and talk.
Yep.
Thinking and talking ain't gonna help you. Okay. There's movement that's necessary. We had a long while ago a kingdom heirs classes that I don't know if anybody remembers that we had these kingdom heirs class at the church, and there was a speaker who said God responds to movement. So if you're trying to do anything, you gotta move.
Yeah.
That God, you know, put out your hand, strike the rock. Do God? There's nothing without movement, whether it's confession, whether it's, you know, whatever. God wants you to move.
Right.
Get busy. You know, we can't, there's no success without us actually putting our hand to the plow and doing something that is meaningful.
Yeah.
Whatever that looks like.
Isn't it so evident, especially for the church? I'm doing the series now, the difference between being a disciple of Christ versus a Christian. You can be a Christian just because you accept Christ.
Yes.
Don't mean you're doing anything. But a disciple of Christ has to move because Jesus represents not only establishing the church, but he represents the church. He was always moving somewhere. After he ministered. The disciples are always following him. And God told Moses, when you see the cloud move, you move. He didn't tell him what time he was going to move, so somebody had to be watching at all times.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, you know, people say, you know, you're right. We have to, God may have our blessings, but it's going to come. We have to go to the blessing many times. I can't say, Lord, bless me with a job, then don't go on an interview.
Or fill out an application.
I need a house. Don't go down there and check it out. You know, but you know, we got to get past entitlement.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Spiritual entitlement. I love that one.
I mean, last time I checked, Jesus hung on the cross. We didn't.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Oh my
gosh. Well, that is so true. And I want to be encouraged to people who, and including myself, who get stuck like this, you know, and just start small. You know, I every night before I go to, I just make a list of things that I need to do. You know, part of it so I don't forget, but part of it keeps me accountable. Because I can cross things off and say, you know, I may have 10 things, I get to 7, and I'm like, okay, those 3 things got to get done early the next day. So it gives me a personal, small, but it gives me a sense of accomplishment that I can cross things off. And when we don't have that ability, or when we're not doing that, I think there's a sense of restlessness that we experience that causes us to just do a little bit of everything. And so we get really unfocused and we're all over the place. So just start small, do one thing differently, just write a list, whatever it is that you want to accomplish, just put it down on paper. Put it on paper.
Absolutely. That goes into the next point too. And that says too many of us think we can wait until success comes. However, we have to work for it. He blesses. This is one of my favorite scriptures too, that he blesses the work of our hands, right? Movement.
Yes.
Right. Yes. So a lot of us just want to wait and think that we're being spiritual and exercising faith, but faith without works is dead. We have to work for it. And to your point, Deacon Labu, a lot of us are good at starting, but not good at finishing. Like a lot of us,
Mhm.
because we're planning and not being focused, we are just going through the motions, but we're not doing anything, right? So
Mhm.
we're good at starting, but we don't have the discipline that it takes to see it
Right.
come to fruition. We
Right.
just good starters,
Yeah. Right.
very poor
Right.
finishers.
Mhm.
And like you said,
Yeah.
because of a lack of focus, having our
Yeah.
hands in too many things, starting too
Mhm.
many things, but not having a plan that's measurable to get anything done.
Mhm.
Go
And
ahead,
I
Deacon. You want to?
and I think you said it, measurable, that we've got to keep that in mind, and then setting realistic goals. I may say I want to lose 50 pounds in 10 days. Not gonna happen. Okay.
Well, they have a pill for that now, you know.
Just take
Still
the
not gonna happen. But we need to set realistic goals. And
yeah.
I'm a grant writer, and part
Mhm.
of part of that is really helping people identify measurable objectives. I tell people it's like going to a dentist. If you get your objectives down, get what you're trying and what you're measuring. If you do that as Pastor, do the framework, you can
Yep.
fill the rest in later.
Mhm.
So you have, short term, medium, and long term goals. So the short term goal may just be, let me get up in the morning and do this.
Yeah.
My medium goal, next week I'm going to do this, and then my long term goal, in 6 months I'm going to do that.
Yep.
So
Mhm.
we don't. What's that thing? You don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Yep.
We do it all the time. If I miss one, oh, just forget it. I'm not going to do
Yep,
it.
blow
So
it up. Yep.
we blow it up. So you
Mhm.
have to, and it goes back to that initial point we were talking about being persistent. We have to get past our own mind and
Mhm.
the stuff that keeps us from doing it. Some of us have heard negative messages all of our lives,
Oh
Yes.
yeah.
from
Oh yeah.
family members, from
Mhm.
people around us. So sometimes it's an internal battle that we have to fight to,
Mhm.
to, to disregard those negative things that people have said about us.
Mhm.
So it really is developing a new footprint and
Mhm.
a new imprint of who God created you to be, and
Absolutely.
accepting that.
I think also too, a part of that is also, I mean, and this usually happens more as we mature more, in life and in the Word of God, reflecting back over things we've been exposed to.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. When I was 15 years old, my pastor, would always just, call me into his office, or sometimes I'd be at home. He said, "Hey, man, what you doing? Nothing. Come on to church." And we had a couple of different building projects there, and he would show me the blueprints. Now I didn't know a thing about a blueprint. And he was so excited. He said, "This is going to be here. This is going to be there." Then they build the next thing, and he didn't call the other ministers in. He called me over, and I'm like, "Why is he showing me that?" I mean, not knowing. 30 years later, I will be involved in something where I needed that, and I've been able. And I talk to him to this day. I said, Pastor Cousin, back then I just was like trying to tune you out, but that was God's in
Yeah.
putting a seed in, not for now, but for the next,
Yeah.
and then after the next for the future. So,
Yeah.
so sometimes you go back to where maybe you had a job and it wasn't the greatest job. Maybe you worked in a deli,
Yeah.
but there's something in that experience that you can, maybe you worked in retail,
Yeah.
maybe you were crossing, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
There's something. God doesn't waste any experience on us,
Yes.
although we might
Yep.
think you wasted.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And we talked about that a little bit in the beginning, that nothing's by accident.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing's it all serves a purpose if you allow it to serve a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
If you step back, and as we talked about how I've learned my most from my mistakes, if I step back and once again look at the life lesson, it served a purpose in terms of where God wants me to go, but it served a purpose in terms of where I am right now. There are things that I didn't want to have to go through,
Mm-hmm.
but if I didn't go through them, I wouldn't be who I am today. I
And
wouldn't
also
be.
by going through them,
Yeah, absolutely,
it's not
absolutely.
just for you; it's for
Yep,
somebody
Yep.
else. Because I
yep,
believe every experience we go through that we learn from,
yeah,
somebody's coming along that we're
yeah.
going to have to impart our wisdom into.
I
Mhm.
absolutely,
Mhm.
absolutely. Hmm.
One of the other things too, as it relates to the difference between things that we're just doing that's a goal and the things that are part of God's purpose, is that I think it's okay that we have our own personal goals,
Mm-hmm.
but when we're walking in purpose, there is a level of vulnerability we have to God in order to hear and receive from Him. And when you're talking about life experiences and the things that taint our view of ourselves, that will absolutely get in the way of your goal setting and your purpose if we don't address those things.
Yeah.
Like there's a level of respect and appreciation we have to our own history, and not just take that as a sign of failure or a lack of purpose, that I'm worthless or I disqualify myself from doing great things because of my past experience, when that can be the fuel that God is using in the tank of purpose. Like, let God use that experience to catapult you forward. It's not meant to be the be all end all of your experience, but God can absolutely use what you've gone through to help you move forward. Even the most tragic and traumatic situations that we, how could that possibly have anything to do with the person that I have become? But you'd be surprised, right? Like, I am Tiffany Linnell McBride, now Smith, who grew up in West Philadelphia, right? And had a severe issue with rejection and feeling invalidated and needing acceptance. And I was that teenager who, if you called my name in the middle of Bible study, would run out the room and go I'll be rocking back and forth with anxiety from being in any place publicly. And it was the trust. It's the trust you have to have in God that I am not my pain.
Right?
In order to
I like that.
Like that.
And I think sometimes we can't be productive if we're just sitting in trauma and negative experiences, but we're not giving God an opportunity to use that. Ask God, what is the purpose behind this pain? And let God use that to take you forward. Sister LaBoo, you brought up too the need for strategy and a need for a deadline, right? Which is very important. So, you know, we gotta not just have these things that we're thinking about, but we also have to have strategy. Strategy, a deadline, and discipline.
Yeah.
Never go wrong without that.
Why you gotta throw that one in there?
Because a strategy and a deadline with no discipline, is dead in the water. Right? But there's a consistent mindset that you have to have to be productive. A consistent mindset. Because we think if I do it once, I'm good. All right, I'm done that. Wipe my hands of it. I accomplished that. But in order to really be productive, you got to be able to apply that in every area of life, not just one. You got to be able to apply that discipline and strategy in your marriage, in your job, in your ministry, in your relationships, or, you know, we're divided and split and inconsistent in everything. So it has to be something that we do all the time.
And you know, I mentioned I'm back in school and I've been on break for like 2.5, 3 weeks. I realize now how much free time I had. I'm about to lose it again next week, but I realized how much free time I had that I was doing nothing with. But here I am, like, I'm so busy. I'm like, no, you're really busy now. There's a lot of time, because if I'm not disciplined to do this at a certain time and set this goal for myself on this day and this time and so forth, before you know it, like I said, you're thinking that you're accomplishing something, but you're really not. You're really not. So that discipline piece is imperative. And you have to set realistic goals, but you have to keep yourself disciplined in, okay, as much as I want to talk on the phone or pick up my phone or watch TV, at least for this hour, I'm going to do this. And it may just start as simple as that. I'm going to give myself an hour a day to do this. You know, I was listening to someone about, you know, writing a book, you know, they said, you know what, don't look at it as writing a book, just write 1 page a day.
Right.
And in 360 days, you'll have 360 pages. So narrow it down to something that's doable, but it still requires discipline to write that 1 page.
Yeah.
You know, the discipline, I'm glad you said that, you know, and I'm going to use an example, another sports analogy. Tom Brady's 44 years old, the oldest player in pro football. And he has 7 Super Bowl rings. Okay. They might get another one this year. Last year, when he won the Super Bowl, a week later, they said he was back out practicing. People said, Tom, you won the Super Bowl. Why don't you take a break? Why don't you and Giselle go here, go there? So you got to understand something. He said, we won it this year. Nobody expected me to come to this team and us to win it. We won it. He said, but next year, we played 16 games last year. Next year, we're going to play those same games. Yeah. The only difference is every game is going to be the other team's Super Bowl against us. Yeah. Success raises the bar.
Yes.
You can't have a bad day. Not saying we don't, but you got to prepare. You got to be disciplined because, success draws the best out of other people.
Yeah. Yes.
Either for you or sometimes against you.
Absolutely. Good point. I know we have to get ready to wrap up, but good point, because one of the last things is overthinking, right? And here's why I think that's important. When I am talking to clients, I may have said this before in one of the last SoundMind panels, but when I'm talking to my clients and they say I'm an overthinker, like I overthink everything, and they consider that a weakness, I always tell them, you can't say that. We are meant to be thinkers, right? It's okay to be a thinker. The problem is when your thinking is not productive, right? So it's not that you're overthinking, it's that your thinking is not productive.
Yeah.
Because how you accomplish anything without a thought?
Right.
Every behavior is attached to thinking.
Right.
So if you're thinking, that's not the problem. The problem is if your thinking is not useful. If I'm just, anxious and worried and I'm not doing anything, I have no strategy, I have no discipline, I have no plan, then of course you're going to feel like I'm just thinking. I overthink everything, but that's because it's not useful. You're not putting any of those thoughts to use. So one of the comments is just like, sometimes I think Annette said one of the hardest things to do is to start. Right.
Yeah.
And so for you guys that are on this live today, start. Right.
Yes.
Start something. If there's anything that we can do to start being productive, start.
Yeah.
Start something. Just write one page. Read one page. Make one phone call.
Learn your craft.
Right. Learn your craft. Invest in yourself. Get some books about what it is that you're trying to do. Start somewhere.
Right.
Robert Schuller said, getting started is half done.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. And realize that it's not going to be perfect. And I think what happens, we set ourselves up because we see the end point.
Yeah.
We think that end point started in perfection. That beginning, really was messed up. You talk to anybody, I'm like, I messed up so much stuff. So it's important to get over the fact of trying to be perfect.
Right.
Be purposeful, but not perfect.
Right.
I like that. That's good.
And then just start where you are
Be purposeful, but not perfect. I love that. Work with intention.
Yeah.
Intention to be productive. Wonderful. Oh my gosh. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. We're wrapping up. Any final thoughts or comments before we get off? Anything you need to say? No,
I just want to just say to the both of you, continue to just do what you do and represent. We need strong women of God, not only in ministry but in the world of business and other areas. And y'all represent it very well.
Amen.
Thank you, Reggie. Ditto. All right, we love you guys. Thank you so much for joining us. Please make sure that you share. If someone missed it, they can go back and listen. And we'll be here again on the second, third. What's today? The second.
And the bad part, I can't help you.
The second Thursday of February. I'm losing it. Second Thursday of February. So thank you guys so much. And we will see you next time. Have a great night.